Hey everybody, November 2025 promises to be a fascinating month as we're going to have Mars, Mercury, and the Sun in the sign of Sagittarius. Mercury is going to go retrograde and Jupiter is going to go retrograde, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So we're having some sort of major redirect, returnaround, redo, reevaluation and and making sure that we're in alignment because Saturn is also in retrograde and Saturn's going to go direct at the end of the month. So Saturn and Jupiter are making this beautiful trine, Mercury in retrograde. Now, all three of these planets are going to be in retrograde, making sure that we reevaluate, we go back and we redo something from the past that we've left behind, need to redo, need to learn better, or need to integrate more in our psyche before we can go forward when Saturn stations direct at the end of the month. All right, here we are at the beginning of November with Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius. Mars is going to oppose Uranus before it moves into Sagittarius here in a day or two, which will cause some sort of upset, possibly it can be a volatile, sudden violence, sudden upheavals, and it can be a shock and awe energy, crisis energy, and degree point of Scorpio. But other than that, the month looks beautiful after we get over that hump. But Mercury is going to start going retrograde here on the 9th, and then Jupiter follows in retrograde. And Jupiter is making this beautiful trine to Saturn, and the Sun will join that trine. Venus will join that trine in the month of November, which is a beautiful backdrop of harmony, calm, peace, blessings, intuitive intelligence, connecting, reflecting these energies because we've got all this retrogradation with Jupiter in retrograde, Mercury in retrograde, Saturn in retrograde. And then with that Mercury in retrograde, we're going back, we're reconnecting with people that we need to reconnect with, that are really a part of our future, that are a part of our Dharma. Sagittarius is all about our Dharma, being on our calling, being on our purpose, following a destiny, following a destined path. And then Jupiter is blessing that with long-term opportunities and abundance and expansion. But when it's in retrograde, we're really reevaluating and we're integrating what we have learned so far and really leaning on what we've learned and really seeing if we've learned it on a psyche level, that it's integrated as a part of who we are now. Planets go direct, we learn a lot. Jupiter direct, Jupiter retrograde, we go back and we discover what we have learned, what is real, what is solid in what we have learned that we can really lean on and use for our own personal expansion. So, Jupiter retrograde, ruling all these planets in Sagittarius. The Sun's going to go into Sagittarius in the 21st of November. And Mercury will be retrograde back into Scorpio, forming another opposition to Uranus, which could bring another deep secrets, revelations, people from the past coming in. Mercury retrograde, we're reevaluating people from our past, choices we made in the past that were not necessarily put us in the right direction. People we left behind that are part of that are really supportive of our true dharmic path that we need to go back and reconnect with. Ideas, projects that we may have not felt strong enough to do or courageous enough to do. Because remember, we have a Jupiter who is ruling all of these planets in Sagittarius, squaring Chiron, giving us the courage and healing us to be initiators and to start these dharmic callings and missions, or shall we say purposes, or what we're here to do, which is going to bring the world into a better place. When we follow our dharmic path collectively, we make heaven on earth, basically. So Jupiter and Saturn is making this beautiful trine, blessing us with opportunities and rewards, you could say, from the squares that happened before with Jupiter Saturn square, where we're now starting to see opportunities in the results of our efforts that will solidify and stabilize an abundant future for us, right? But with this retrogradation, we have to go back and fix something or reconnect with someone or redo a project or come back and reevaluate something we believe. Maybe we have a new belief system. Maybe we can do something now with our new belief, with that Jupiter squaring Chiron. We have the faith in it. Now we can go back and take on a project or take on a relationship or an idea. Go back, retrieve this this good thing that is going to improve our lives and expand our lives. And now we're going to bring it back into our journey, our forward destiny. And then when Saturn goes direct here at the end of the month, it really takes us forward on that, with that new aligned, shall we say, things that we retrieved from the past, people, ideas, projects. And then we're bringing them with us forward. Now, Jupiter's going to stay in retrograde. Mercury's going to go out of retrograde in December. Saturn's going to be out of retrograde in December, but Jupiter's going to continue its retrogradation, which means we're continuing to draw on what we have internally learned, and we're continuing to integrate wisdom, knowledge, experience. And it's a long retrogradation, but it is in its abundant sign of Cancer, so it shouldn't block abundance. It should continue to feed us abundance. Only we're really leaning on what an internal wisdom that we have developed in the last. Well, all of this journey began in December 21, 2020. So we've learned a lot. We've gained a lot of wisdom in our experience and in our learning. Jupiter is about learning and growing consciousness and awareness. So we've made a lot of new awareness, new knowledge. So now when Jupiter goes into retrograde, we then apply it. We then see, did we really learn something, or was it only head deep, or did it change who we were? Now at Jupiter retrograde, we see that it has changed who we are, and we now act from that internal place of knowing rather than external. So we have two lunations, as always, every month. We're going to have a full moon in Taurus on the 5th of November. And that is going to be a super abundant full moon, 13 degrees of Taurus. Super abundant full moon. Anytime you're going to get the moon in Taurus, we're really going to get some nice harvest, especially a full moon. We're harvesting. We're reaping the rewards on a full moon. We're seeing the results of some sort of a nice, abundant, strong, stable, long-term results from some sort of effort that we may have seeded in the new moon in May. So we're seeing sort of the harvest of that, and it looks very abundant and sort of we could say it's a very rich produce with a lot of nutrients, nurturing us to continue on this highly supported path that we're on by the universe, feeding us lots of richness. And then we're going to have a new moon in Scorpio on the 20th. And the new moon in Scorpio on the 20th is pretty intense because it's at the end degree point of Scorpio. So it's like kind of a crisis degree. So for some people, this could be a situation of sort of intensity, upset. But there's a crisis often at the end degree point. But again, it depends on your own personal chart, if it's giving you a harsh angle, but if not, it's a really beautiful new moon where we really clear old fears. With this Saturn, Jupiter trine, it's really supporting our forward momentum. By this point, Saturn is still in retrograde, but we're really finding some deep clearing, some purging of transformative of the fears, some deep fears that have been holding us back from taking our nice path, because it really does. This new moon is a part of that water trine, which brings us into a harmonic flow towards our destiny, a stable new future. So we're really breaking through some sort of deep fear, inner fear that's blocking our destiny with that new moon. And so this is a new moon, a new beginning from a newly healed, or shall we say, purged, brave, the end of that, because whenever you get to the end degree point, Neptune is making a trine to Neptune. So it's sort of some sort of a blessing as a result of having done some internal transformative work. We now have a new seed, a new beginning from sort of fresh soil. So very fertile new moon. And so that takes us pretty much to the end of the month there. Saturn stationing direct, I'm going to go into all the 12 signs now. Saturn stationing direct is going to bring a lot of forward momentum on top of the retrograde energy. So we get a nice, Saturn's been in retrograde, so things have felt possibly pretty blocked and slow and heavy. So then when Saturn starts moving direct, we start to feel it's a slow build momentum, which is really going to take strong traction in February when it goes into Aries. So we're realigning in these energies, getting back, making sure we're in the right path, in the right Dharmic destiny, with the right people, the right projects, the right ideas, so that when Saturn goes direct, we're in alignment, going forward with those things. And again, this is all with a reflective, with the month beginning with this retrogradation. We're really connecting with our higher selves, our souls, and really connecting with what our soul is here to do. And we're just finding the path forward, clarifying that path forward this month. And it will go very strongly forward by the we'll start to really feel a momentum start to build by the end of the month. All right, have a wonderful month. Namaste. All right, Aries, the month begins with your ruling planet, Mars, in its own sign, domicile sign. So it's in a strong position, opposing Uranus in Gemini. Now that's going to happen for a few days here in the month of November. We're going to have Mars opposing Uranus. This is important for Aries because you're ruled by Mars. And I'll get it to the right house in a minute. But Mars is going to be opposing Uranus for pretty much up into the Mercury retrograde almost. So for the first week of November, you are subject to sudden surprisings, sudden out of the blue events that may cause you to take turnaround actions or having to react and take sudden action around. Let me get it to the right house so you can see what house this is happening in. It's going to be happening in your eighth house. And so Uranus is going to be in your second house because Uranus is going to shift signs. So it's happening between your eighth and your ninth and your third and your second. So this is sort of information news around your finances. However, there is a breakthrough in these energies that creates a flow in your finances. For instance, perhaps it's also potentially a tax letter that surprises you, but it is resolved in some way, and then you're able to now travel, or some sort of liberation has occurred because you're having the grand water trine in your moksha houses, which is all about spiritual liberation. So this is a energy of breakthroughs, and now we're looking at Mercury in retrograde, where we're taking pivots, turnarounds, going back to old choices we made, realigning with people, places, and things from the past that really are important for us, or that we need to realign with for our new or the next step, because Saturn is in retrograde still, in a very reflective energy where we're connecting with what we really want. Jupiter's about to go retrograde. And so now what's happening in your third house is the water trine. Jupiter's in your fourth house. So you're having this emotional, reflective, liberating experience and discovery of what you truly desire, which then leads you to Mars, Mercury, and Sagittarius inspired new actions to either travel or learn, go to school, increase your knowledge around higher consciousness things, religions, philosophy. And this grand water trine, so the Mars-Uranus opposition sort of breaks some kind of blockage, which opens up this beautiful flow into you're somehow emotionally liberated, like a fear. You have a breakthrough, some sort of fear, and it emotionally liberates you. And then with Jupiter ruling Mars, Mercury in your ninth house, you're free to travel, you're free to study, learn something. Um, it can be a later in life partnership. So with Saturn about to enter your first house, opposing your seventh, it can be a strong past life connection, being that Saturn is currently in the 12th house. So in other words, we're preparing for when Saturn stations direct for some sort of momentum action that's in alignment with our Dharma, because the fire energy of Sagittarius is a Dharmic energy. So, and Jupiter is making this trine to Sagittarius, which is causing stability on our Dharmic path, financial long-term stability. So for you guys, there is some sort of emotional breakthrough that is initiated at the beginning of the month around fears around finances, fears around intimacy, fears around relationships, or some sort of conflict or some sort of, outburst or breakthrough or bust. Aries aren't afraid of a conflict, so there could be a conflict that comes up, but whatever happens, it creates a flow breakthrough. So, and then with Mercury in retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, Saturn retrograde, there's this deep reflection, integrating what you've learned so far on this journey that you've been on since we've all been on since December 21, 2020, Saturn Jupiter conjunction, where we all started a purposeful, driven, destined path to become more independent people, sovereign people, the age of Aquarius. So for you guys, this water trine is in your moksha houses, which is about so for Aries, this is a month where you're having these big, deep emotional breakthroughs and breakthroughs around fears and deep subconscious fears that are really causing you to sort of have somewhat of a blockage fear because Chiron is in your first house where you're learning to sort of break through the fears of being an Aries, an initiator, and to sort of step forward and be, because Aries are initiators and instigators. So Aries are being purified of that uh, deep insecurities that have happened in our, societies in the last 50 years or so, where because Chiron's a 50-year cycle. So there's healing and for Aries to become pure Aries, instigators, initiators, which is what they're here to do. So this beautiful water trine is going to bless your finance houses, your finances and your living situation. There's a good chance Jupiter goes retrograde now. You're going to move or go back to a living situation from the past. Sorry, I went too far here. So Mercury's going to go retrograde on the 11th. So there's a good chance that you reevaluate a living situation or someone to live with or a family or you rebuild a house, because Saturn is trining this in your 12th house. So perhaps in the country or traveling. But there's some sort of shift in your living situation from the past, or you've just simply learned a lot because Jupiter in retrograde is where we're just reflecting on what we've learned. So now that you've learned something, you decide to travel. There's a trine to your 12th house. You sell a property, perhaps. But there is liberation in this retrogradation of Saturn trine Jupiter. And then when Saturn stations direct in your 12th house, there's a good chance you travel. That's at the end of the month. And what else? So things really start to flow. You're going to feel a real movement forward when Saturn moves direct at the end of the month, when whatever realignment or people you had to retrieve from the past with that Mercury retrograde, people from the past that are part of our future, we're retrieving in Mercury retrograde, and new beliefs, reevaluating our true beliefs and finding what's real. These reflective energies now have you ready to really step forward and start a momentous forward movement with all sort of planets in alignment, as it were. And that will happen because you're really preparing for Saturn moving into your first house here in February. But it's going to station direct at the end of this month. So you'll be feeling a momentum forward movement in your perhaps dreams of travel and also clearing a karmic pattern and knot, which is what the end degrees of Pisces is all about. All right, so we're going to look at the new moon. We've got, a full moon at the beginning of the month on the 6th. In your second, you see there's a real theme of finances for you, Aries, because there's a full moon with that, the second and eighth house for Aries. Oops, go back. So I can't get it on the moon there or I'll lose my alignment, but it's going to be at 13 degrees and the moon and this is good. This is like, it is a very abundant full moon. So whatever happens at the beginning of the month, that if it does create a fearful experience around your finances, this is a real turnaround, a real abundant financial sort of retrieval of some sort, like money comes to you from, it's a very abundant, and it would be related to a new moon that happened previously, perhaps in May or the year before. And there's some sort of retrieval of some sort of abundance, and it's in your money house. So, or possessions, you get a really nice, beautiful possession of some sort. And the sun is in your eighth house. So this is like clearing and really kind of freeing you up from some sort of financial stressor. So that's a nice full moon there. But it can reveal a debt too. For some people, this could be a challenging full moon, but with in other words, to have a full moon in your house can show up a debt. However, this is an abundant full moon. So if that shows up, a solution comes in, like a interest-free credit card is offered to you too. Something will set you free at the same time, or very soon, or an open door. I've seen that happen to me many times because we've got all these beautiful trines. The sun is trining the nodes. So these are opening doors for us. So try not to stress, because eighth house full moons can be stressful. Now then we're going to have the um, new moon in Scorpio at the end degrees, at about 27 degrees of Scorpio at the end of the month there. That's on the 20th. And that again is a potential, because that is opposite Uranus. So we do have some again, this is an intense potential. And for Aries, it'll be in your eighth and in your those two houses, which can be financial financially centric. And again, it's on that same spot where the Uranus and the Mars opposition occurred. So, and it is again opposing Uranus. So same message, out of the blue shock. New moons can be kind of tough, but then look at this. It makes this beautiful. I just think new moons and full moons in the eighth and the second can be a little shaky, but fear, because we have a lot of people carry some deep hidden fears, and it is also around intimacy. So intimacy and finances in general. But look at what a beautiful trine it makes to Jupiter and Saturn. So whatever happens, you are protected and safe. These are happening in your emotional liberation houses. And again, with Jupiter in your fourth house, there is some sort of blessing and beautiful expansion in a family, in a true family, because it's in retrograde. That's from your heart, in what you internally desire. And also it's Dharma, part of your true path. These people, whatever relationships begin for Aries now, or families that start in these energies, or new living situations if you're moving, it is really to align you with your true destiny. All right, Aries, have a wonderful month. And please like and subscribe if you haven't. If you would like a reading, feel free to contact me at my website, soullevels.com. Have a wonderful month. Namaste.